My name is Christina, and I have been living in Astoria for 25 years.
What first introduced you to the concept of gentrification?
Well, I noticed that, when I first moved here, there were lots of factory buildings and older buildings, especially around the Queens Plaza area. And now that I notice there are lots of, high-rise luxury buildings, and it's beginning to resemble a mini Manhattan. People moving from elsewhere in a higher income bracket, and they're displacing the people that have been living here for decades.
How do you think gentrification changed the culture of Astoria?
Gentrification is changing Astoria by making it more exclusive, so the people who live here really can't anymore, and the prices are now astronomical, and it's just really making it difficult for people to stay where they are, especially since there's such a housing crisis in New York City as it is.
What is something that gentrification caused that affected you on a personal level?
It has caused the removal of businesses that I spent my money in. One of them was a nail salon that I went to for many years. There was a bakery and even a restaurant and a 99-cent store. That was here before Dollar Tree and Dollar General had came, and they were in business for over 20 years, and they just recently closed like 2 weeks ago.
How do you cope with changes that gentrification has brought to Astoria?
I am coping the best way that I can, but it does induce a lot of anxiety, because where are we gonna go? It's already a dire situation with housing as it is in New York City, and it's just shameful that I feel like I'm being priced out of this neighborhood, and that it's becoming too exclusive for me to even live in. Such a shame. This entire block demolished to make more of these.
Hi, my name is Alice Wang, and I'm a student from Stuyvesant High School. I am from a working class immigrant family, and I have lived in Elmhurst for over 10 years.
How has gentrification affected you or someone you know?
Well, over the last few years, I've noticed a lot of more expensive housing projects being constructed in this neighborhood. Like, I know there's one across the street from my building, and it was from maybe 4 years ago, I think, and it recently finished constructing. But that's just only one example, and a lot of these places are like apartment buildings, and they're really expensive. And for someone who comes from a family who doesn't own a car, Elmhurst is like a really good location because of its public transport. And without my family has been trying to find a new place to move to since I have an older brother. So trying to live in a very small apartment for the last 10 years has been difficult. So we've been trying to look for new places, but the cost of living in Elmhurst has just been skyrocketing. And I know it's been the same in a lot of places in New York City, since overpriced housing is a big problem. But it makes it so that we can't really move and stay within the same neighborhood because of this cost of housing.
How tight-knit a community is Elmhurst to you?
I think it's pretty tight-knit. A lot of my mom's friends live in this area, so she knows a lot of people here. Also, it's not that difficult to talk to anyone here, since most people they're also immigrant families, so it's pretty easy to just talk to them. And since my family, we all share a language within some communities here, it's not that hard to go to the supermarket and go shopping or anything. So it's pretty nice.
So what do you think the future of Elmhurst will look like?
I think this neighborhood is really trying to become more progressive, and with all the housing projects, they're trying to make it less, I guess, seems like an immigrant place, which I mean is a good thing to some extent, that you're trying to improve the living conditions. by building these houses, but the costs of these places I don't think it's that worth it. I think it's getting rid of that culture that Elmhurst is known for, being like the immigrant place. Since like most people, they just think of New York City as diverse and where immigrant families come through, you know, Ellis Island and stuff. And yeah, it's kind of, I feel like that reputation is changing.
How has gentrification impacted you?
I think I'm lucky enough to live in a place where the effects haven't been as detrimental as they have been in other places. My family has experienced the effects of rent prices rising, with our rent increasing every year or so. But honestly, like, that's been the case with all the residents in our building, and luckily it's been affordable increases. But I know a lot of people, I know a lot of friends who have had to move to other locations and even like buy houses all around the city, because at this point sometimes it's just cheaper in the long term to buy rather than rent.
What has changed about 82nd Street or Jackson Heights?
There's this place that I used to go as a kid where I used to get all my childhood like DVDs from, and that place has been replaced by another store. It's not exactly like a chain restaurant, but even though it's a smaller place and it's not like something very commercial, it's still sad to see something that close and personal to me kind of being cast aside.
How do you feel about the word gentrification?
I think it's a really complex term, and I think it's really hard to articulate all that the word like encapsulates. But when I think of gentrification, the main thing that comes to mind is like things that I see physically changing around me. So like stores that I used to love going to being replaced by big chain places. But I obviously know that gentrification is so much more than that, and it also involves like rent prices increasing and like a wider, richer crowd taking over smaller communities, especially POC. So I think there's it's a very difficult issue to like put into words because there's a lot involved. I really don't think gentrification is a black and white issue, which is exactly why I have hope that things will go in a more positive direction in the future. I think that gentrification can be done in a way that doesn't necessarily harm the older residents as much as it could. I can't say exactly what the solutions would be, but I certainly think that expanding affordable housing, giving renters a platform to complain about poor landlords, and reducing property taxes for long-term residents would definitely be a step in the right direction. And you know, like gentrification, in some instances, I guess it might be a good economic decision, but I really think that we have to look beyond that also and think about like the humanity of the issue, the humane aspect of the issue.
I'm Joyce Coe, and I've lived in Flushing for 18 years, and I've noticed a lot of changes in the past 5 years that make me a bit nervous about the future of my neighborhood. Flushing used to be a relatively quiet part of Queens filled with working-class immigrant residents. But now there is more and more construction happening everywhere, and larger, shinier buildings going up that the older immigrant-owned establishments struggle to keep up with. I feel like it's not really beneficial to the community here, and it makes things seem a lot more out of place, even if they're next to each other. Today, I'm taking you to Satay to speak with the manager about whether he's noticed these changes as well.
My name is Joe Chow. I'm the supervisor of the restaurants.
What price changes have you noticed throughout the years? Do stores cost more?
Yeah, because the inflation of the price now is getting up, and the labor cost is more, and especially the food cost. It's more expensive. I figure it's around 30 to 40% been up in the past couple of years. Seems like there's a lot of construction going on, and you see a lot of changes.
Have you noticed more trendy shops opening, like selling new foods like mochi donuts or like more popular fried stuff?
Yeah, I can see because A lot of people try to start off with small shop. I see there's a lot of new shops up and coming, new shops being opened up. New buildings, I see a lot around in the Flushing area, especially in the Queens area. A lot of renovations going on too.
자기소개 부탁드립니다.
안녕하세요. 나는 한국에서 태어나고 대학을 졸업하고 대기업을 다니다가 돈을 벌기 위해 미국에 오게 된 김재란이라고 합니다.
플러싱이 왜 나랑 관련 있는지 설명 부탁드립니다.
미국에 와서 처음 살게 된 곳이 플러싱이고 차도 없는 나에게 먹는 거, 입는 거, 사는 거 모든 것을 해결할 수 있는 곳도 플러싱이었고 내가 할 수 있는 일이 있는 곳도 플러싱밖에 없었어요. 왜냐하면 영어가 많이 부족해서 한인들을 상대로 일할 수 있는 곳이 플러싱밖에 없었기 때문입니다.
과거의 플러싱과 현재 플러싱을 비교하자면
과거 플러싱은 메인스트리트 하면 한인상가, 한인이 밀접한 곳이었고 플러싱 항복판에 지금은 없어졌지만 공용 주차장이 있었어요. 맨하탄에 가는 사람들이 여기에다가 파킹을 시키고 전철을 이용해 맨하탄을 간다든지 그러다 보니 많은 사람들이 몰리게 되고 한인 상권이 더 발달하게 되어 자연스럽게 한인타운이 자리 잡게 되었죠. 나에게 플러싱은 제2의 고향이나 다름없는 곳이기도 합니다. 언어와 문화가 다른 나라에 가서 뿌리를 내리는 것은 쉬운 일이 아닙니다. 하지만 플러싱에 가면 한국 간판을 많이 볼 수 있고 예를 들어서 약국, 제과점, 학원, 미용실, 식당 등 쉽게 한국 간판을 접할 수 있었죠. 하지만 지금의 플러싱에는 그런 그림을 찾기가 많이 힘듭니다. 공용 주차장은 플러싱 커먼스라는 초대형 주상복합단지가 세워지고 한국 간판들은 유명한 프랜차이즈 식당, 카페로 바뀌고 예전의 모습은 찾기가 많이 힘들어요. 예를 들어서 커피 한 잔에 1, 2불 하던 것이 지금은 5, 6불 정도 주어야 사 먹을 수 있고 저렴한 음식들을 이제 찾아볼 수가 없어요. 플러싱에 많은 사람들이 모여 상권을 이루면서 올라가는 렌트비를 감당하지 못해 떠나버린 가게 주인들과 건물주 역시 프랜차이즈나 대기업에 렌트를 주기를 원하고 재계약을 해주지 않아 모두 하루아침에 일자리를 많이 잃게 되는 경우가 많아요. 내 친한 언니도 메인스트리트의 삼수갑산이라는 가게를 운영하고 있어요. 그런데 비싼 렌트비와 재계약을 해주지 않아 지금 가게에 많은 어려움에 처해 있어요. 이런 작은 개인 가게들도 이런 어려움 없이 편하게 웃으면서 일할 수 있는 날이 오길 기다려봅니다.
Harlem, Manhattan is internationally known as the Black Mecca of the world and famous for its arts, culture, and food. We spoke with Kenneth Letzum about his experiences living in Harlem and the changes he's observed during that time.
It's Ken Letzum, and I was born in Harlem for over 40 years.
What do you have to say, if anything, to people who contribute to gentrification?
Property owners that are buying up buildings and maybe trying to get long-term tenants out to move in new tenants. It comes across like a few more businesses are in the area and stuff like that. It makes it look more hip, or it makes the community look like, wow, we have all these different thriving businesses, you know. But I think a lot of times the feeling is like, how come a lot of businesses weren't opened up earlier, or some of the same type of shops where people invested before? Like, were the people that lived there before not good enough? In most places, there's always a turnaround. There were always people that lived there before, and then a certain group of people move out, and then another group of people move in. So I think it's just like a cycle. I think having diverse background, diverse group of people is fine. It's as long as everybody's treated the same, there's mutual respect.
Oiwa Laundromat is situated in the heart of Corona, Queens. About 62% of the neighborhood report having difficulty paying their rent. This is a statistic the laundromat is included in. Gentrification in New York as a whole has raised the prices of almost everything.
Almost 20 years I still live this area. The other people, they don't have the machine and home. As the people go far away to wash their clothes, and that's why I say I need to open the laundromat for this neighborhood.
The laundromat has to be open for 16 hours, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day to make any profit.
What does gentrification mean to you?
What it means to me is when wealthy people changes the poor areas by improving housing and businesses, leaving the people who live here displaced.
What is the positive and negative effect of gentrification?
The positive effect of this is the improvements of the businesses and housing based on looks. The negative effect of this is, even though the community looks better, the value is higher than people are usually used to, such as rent. So now people are forced to find cheaper living areas.
Have you ever witnessed or experienced gentrification?
I haven't experienced it personally, but I have witnessed it here. There are a lot of new improvements here, like new restaurants, hotels, banks, and apartment buildings. I have seen businesses were taking over even though they have been here for years.
As Astoria is known to house many residents of diverse ethnic backgrounds, it seems that this demographic is starting to change dramatically over the most recent years. This is evident through the new housing developments that seem to exclude long-time Astoria residents and cause a significant increase in rent.
Felicia Hargrave, and I've been living in Astoria for 13 years now.
What are some changes that you've seen happen in Astoria?
I've seen rents go up. I've seen non-minorities starting to come over into Astoria.
How does gentrification make you feel?
It makes me feel as if we as African Americans and other ethnicities, that they're trying to get us out. It makes me feel as if they feel that we're not worthy to be here.
If you can change one thing about Astoria, what would it be?
The rent.
Do you see yourself living in Astoria in the coming future?
No, I do not see myself staying in Astoria for the upcoming future. The future of Astoria looks bland to me. No diversity.